Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to IGCSE Success. Now today's video is for all of my second language learners out there, and it's going to be looking at how to write a successful informal email. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to watch all of the video until the very end, and don't forget to leave your feedback below. And without further ado, let's get on with today's video. Hi guys, so IGCSE second language English, my first video. I'm so excited. This video is for paper 2, the reading and writing paper, and it's primarily geared towards those sitting the extended paper. And if you are sitting the extended paper, that means that of course you can access those higher grades up to an A star. And the focus of today's lesson is going to be how to write a successful informal email. But first, let's just scrutinize the mark scheme first. Where do you get your marks from? So for exercise 5 and 6, they are both worth 16 marks. So it's really important that you get them right. You are marked on 2 different strands, content and language, and both are worth 8 marks each. Let's just look at the content and the bullet points. So the first strand underlined there is relevance. Is your task fulfilled? Are you able to consistently use an appropriate style and register for the text type? And can you demonstrate that your writing has an excellent sense of purpose and audience? Put simply, have you followed the question? Have you written something that resembles an informal email? Have you used suitable stylistic choices? Is your style, the style that you have adopted, is it suitable for an informal email? So is it chatty? Is it informal? Is it friendly, etc.? And is that consistent from beginning to end? Excellent sense of purpose and audience. So have you understood why you are writing the email? Are you writing to advise? Are you writing to describe? Are you writing to inform, etc.? And of course, it's really important to pay attention to the audience as well, because writing an email to, say, your mother compared to a best friend, your stylistic choices, your language, etc., they're going to be slightly different. And of course, to access those top marks, to get 7 or 8 out of 8 for content, you have to develop your content. You have to develop your ideas. You need to address all 3 bullet points, and you need to communicate your ideas skillfully and effectively. And I guess much of that is done through your language. Let's quickly look at the second strand, which is language, range and accuracy. So uses a wide range of common and less common vocabulary effectively, uses a wide range of structures, both simple, complex, effectively, high level of accuracy of language throughout. Occasional errors may be present, but these do not impede communication. Errors are related to less common vocabulary or more complex structures. Okay, so it's really important, if you want to access those higher marks in terms of language, you need to use a variety of sentence structures. You need to use a wide range of vocabulary choices, precisely as well. Remember, Cambridge are not looking for perfection in terms of your piece being completely error-free, but things such as tense agreement, sentence fragments, basic spelling, punctuation and grammar. Cambridge do expect candidates, certainly aiming for a top mark for this question, to not make too many of these errors. And lastly, for organisation, you need to use paragraphs, you need to use connectives, and more on that a little bit later on. So let's look at some typical features of informal email writing. And if you've got a pen and some paper to hand, I would get these down. These are the kind of features that you want to include into any email task you are given. So let's look at the first one. You will need to include an appropriate greeting and friendly opening. For example, "Dear John, I know it's been a while." Number 2, you need to adopt a chatty, a friendly, and informal style. For example, you wouldn't believe it. Number 3, use of idioms and phrasal verbs. Idioms such as better late than never. Phrasal verbs such as I had to put up with something. 4, informal expressions such as it seriously blew my mind. Number 5, interrogatives, a fancy term for questions. What would you have done? Number 6, contractions. Can't, wouldn't, hadn't are certainly something I would expect and Cambridge would expect to see in an informal email. Number 7, simple connectives and next, because. So remember, this is an informal email, so using connectives such as furthermore, moreover are probably not appropriate. Number 8, using a range of vocabulary, including some ambitious choices. For example, it was good, that adjective good, versus it was captivating. Number 9, using a variety of sentence structures. Cambridge do not want to see just a string of simple sentences. Try and get in some complex sentences as well. When I entered the shop, it was. Remember, if we are using complex sentences, there's a comma to separate the dependent clause from the independent clause. And if you are not au fait with your different sentence types, it is something I recommend you going away and certainly revising the 3 main sentence types. Number 10, an appropriate closing. Speak soon, catch you later, let's meet soon. Now, an acronym I always use with my students, it doesn't matter if they're doing first language or second language, is TAP. And I always say, don't forget to tap on the task. T means text type, A means audience, and P means purpose. Obviously, the text type is given. It's always going to be an email for exercise 5, but you do need to establish the audience and purpose quite quickly. Let's read exercise 5, and this is your typical question you would expect to see on a paper 2. You recently helped someone in trouble. Write an email to a friend explaining what happened. In your email, you should describe where you were and what happened, explain what you did to help, say what you learned from this experience. The pictures may give you some ideas, and you can also use some ideas of your own. Your email should be between 150 and 200 words long. You will receive up to 8 marks for the content of your email and up to 8 marks for the language used. Have your highlighters poised as always and highlight the key bits of information. So, as mentioned, the text type, it's always going to be an email, but let's have a look at the audience. So you are writing to a friend, so of course your language needs to be quite relaxed, quite friendly. And the purpose here is you are explaining what happened, so you need to go into detail about the situation. And really, to be successful with this question, you need to have about 3 paragraphs. You need to address each bullet point equally, and you must develop your ideas, and feel free to use the pictures. Sometimes they can be helpful, but the most important thing is that you read the bullet points carefully. So let's take a look at what success looks like. Let's look at a model response to this question. Dear Jake, how's things? It's definitely been a while. I'm sorry I've been a little on the quiet side. You know how hectic life gets sometimes. I wish I was exaggerating, but I presently have a mountain of homework staring at me from the corner of my room. Anyway, I thought I'd reach out to you as something rather shocking happened today in our favourite coffee place. You won't believe it. Early this morning, I miraculously found myself with 5 minutes to spare, so I thought I would nip into coffee for you. As soon as I stepped foot into the shop, there was some commotion happening. A woman was in floods of tears. I stood frozen for a few seconds. She started waving her purse in the air and she suddenly locked eyes with me. Her money had been stolen. At this point, I was very aware of the time. I was also very aware of being face to face with someone who desperately needed my help. I decided to put school to the back of my mind and put my hand on the lady's shoulder and told her that I would try my best to help. I called the police immediately and explained the situation to the busy baristas. So obviously there I have addressed both bullet points, the first two bullet points, and I have developed my ideas appropriately. Let's look at the third bullet point. The police swiftly arrived and the lady thanked me. I felt a huge wave of happiness come over me. I had finally done something right in my life. What would you have done? I didn't manage to get to school in time, but being late really didn't bother me that much. Sometimes we have to put others first, even if it means getting another detention for being late. Oops. Anyway, let's meet up soon. It's been far too long. Stephen. So why is this email successful? Well, let's take a look. Number 1, there is an appropriate greeting and friendly opening. So I've used Dear Jake, how's things? Number 2, I have adopted a chatty style. It's definitely been a while. I've used the phrasal verb reach out. Number 4, I've used informal expressions such as you know how hectic life gets sometimes. Number 5, I've used interrogatives. For example, what would you have done? Number 6, I've used contractions, hows and didn't. Number 7, I've used simple connectives, and, so, anyway. Number 8, I've used a range of vocabulary including some ambitious choices, shocking, miraculously, desperately. Number 9, I've varied my sentence structures. There's lots of simple and complex sentence structures. For example, as soon as I stepped foot into the shop. And number 10, I've used an appropriate closing. Anyway, let's meet up soon. So let's take a look at another task. Last week you met someone who has recently moved into the area where you live. You get on well and you think your friend would like this person too. Write an email to your friend about the person you met. In your email you should say how you met this person, explain why you think your friend would like this person, suggest something you could do together, and again you can use those pictures, and your email needs to be between 150 and 200 words long. Don't worry if you go slightly over the word count, you are not going to be penalised. So let's take a look at a model response to this question. Hi Rob, hope all is well with you. Things have been pretty quiet here, as usual, but the good news is that a family finally moved into the house next door. I honestly thought that garish for sale sign would never come down. They are absolutely lovely, and the best thing, they have a son the same age as us. He's really funny. His name is Gaz. I met him whilst doing some morning exercise outside. He just so happened to be doing the same thing. In fact, I almost bumped into him. It at least got us talking. He is like you, Rob. He can talk for England. He's really into his fitness as well. Although he's only just moved here, he's training for his 5th half marathon. You two would get on like a house on fire. Seriously. Anyway, Gaz is very eager to meet some new people. I'm sure you can remember when you were new to the neighbourhood and felt completely alone. It's not a nice feeling. I thought that maybe we could all grab a coffee together. How does that sound? Gaz also mentioned setting up a little running club. Maybe I could point him in your direction. I'm sure you could help him. Let me know what you think, Jim. Now let's take a look at why this model response is successful. There's an appropriate greeting and friendly opening. Hi Rob, hope all is well with you. I've adopted a chatty style. Things have been pretty quiet here. I've used an idiom. You two would get on like a house on fire. That means really well, believe it or not. Informal expressions. I've used that verb grab. Maybe we could grab a coffee. Interrogatives. How does that sound? Contractions. He's, I'm. There's simple connectives such as and in fact. Number 8, I've used a range of vocabulary choices. For example, the adjective garish. That means very, very bright, and not in a good way either. Number 9, a variety of sentence structures. I've used some simple sentences. For example, I'm sure you could help him. Number 10, I've used an appropriate closing. Let me know what you think. Now let's take a look at the last task. You recently watched an interesting documentary which helped you do a homework project. Write an email to a friend about the documentary. In your email, you should describe the documentary that you watched, tell your friend about the homework project, explain how the documentary helped you with your homework project. The pictures may give you some ideas, and you can also use some of your own. So let's take a look at the model response. Hey Sarah, how's tricks? You know our seemingly impossible homework project that is due in less than a week? Well, I'm about to answer your prayers. The joys of Netflix. Please tell me you haven't seen My Octopus Teacher yet. My head has seriously been spinning from the amount of research I've been carrying out on invertebrates. This documentary has everything we need for our project. Prayers answered. The documentary was seriously amazing. Who would have thought that octopuses were so remarkably smart? You know me, I have the attention span of a goldfish, but this documentary really taught me so much. I was hooked from beginning to end. I also had to grab my tissues towards the end. I won't spoil it for you, but it really did move me. Anyway, back to our science project. It is on different invertebrates and their behaviours. I think Miss is expecting us to put together a booklet of sorts with different chapters based on the animals we choose. The documentary got me thinking, maybe I could include a couple of chapters about octopuses and make reference to the documentary itself. I'm sure it would impress Miss, the fact that I had not relied so heavily on Wikipedia for once. I could include chapters about their habitat, behaviour and diet. What do you think? Anyway, I thought I'd tell you about this documentary in case you wanted to give it a watch. Trust me, it will help with your final project. Speak to you soon, Doug. So let's take a look at why this email is successful. So number 1, of course, there's an appropriate greeting and friendly opening. I've used Hey Sarah, how's tricks? I think how's tricks is a really British way of saying, how are things, what's up? Number 2, I've adopted a chatty style. The joys of Netflix. Number 3, I've used that phrasal verb to carry out. Number 4, informal expressions. My head has seriously been spinning. This is a phrase that we would not use in more formal text types or formal text tasks. Number 5, interrogatives. Who would have thought that octopuses were so remarkably smart? Contractions, hows, won't. Number 7, simple connectives, and so. Number 8, I've used a range of vocabulary choices. I've used the adverb remarkably. Number 9, I've used a variety of sentence structures. The documentary got me thinking, so you've got a simple sentence there. And the appropriate closing I've used this time is speak to you soon. And of course, I've signed it off with a name there, Doug. And there you have it, guys. 3 exam tasks, 3 model responses. Just make sure that you include a range of the features. Try and include all 10. And trust me, you can't go wrong. Best of luck.